This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from Love Theoretically and The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood with mentions of ACOFAE and Twilight. Please see show notes for details.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the fantasy, literature, and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing Love Theoretically by Hazelwood. Jessica Marie, why are we doing this?
So if you've been following the podcast, you may or may not know that Laura and we also read other genres outside of our typical fantasy reads that we cover on the podcast. So what we decided to challenge each other is basically on the week of our half birthdays, we're gonna be exposing the other to the genre that we each read. So outside of fantasy, I typically read like memoirs or romance, rom-coms. And I was like between 3 books. Then I had narrowed it down to 2. Mostly I narrowed it down to 2 because I know the reason why Laura doesn't care to read memoirs. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to force a memoir knowing that she doesn't care for them. And so I was like, well, you know what? It's going to be one of these 2 romance novels. And I selfishly picked Love Theoretically, which thank you so much for appeasing me. I'm so excited. And I know we have a hint of a character that you love. Mr. Adam Driver makes his appearance in this book, inspired by I guess the Hazelwood universe. But yeah, selfishly, I was just like, let's read this one. I know you like the author. I knew we had a cameo of sorts. And I felt like it was just a little insight. Elsie's just like a little insight of who I am outside of our relationship, Laura. So I selfishly was like, how do I tell her that this is kind of how I can be? And like, the things that I have to deal with in my family a lot. And I have brought this book up in therapy. So I selfishly was just like, let's do this one. It was either this or another choice. And now I'm keeping that other choice on the back burner for next year.
Well, I mean, all spoilers here, of course, but I loved this book. Obviously, I love Adam and Olive. Is he Adam?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Dr. Coulson. I love Dr. Coulson and Olive so much. They are wonderful. So they were a little treat here. But I really love this story. I love the fact that it has a lot to do with like academics and politics and like trying to get ahead. And also a huge chunk about people pleasing and trying to get over that. And it is very fun. Although, Jess, I will tell you that I was very hesitant because very early on, it's like kind of a miscommunication. And I was just like, no, just tell him. But how do you tell him? Because it's weird. It's weird. So like, so I understood, but I was on the edge.
Yeah, it's so weird because the miscommunication, I'll use it in air quotes. It is a miscommunication trope of sorts, right? But it's also like she's struggling because she's like, it's not for me to tell. Part of this miscommunication is hindering on Jack, our male MC character, his relationship with the brother. And she's like, I can't jeopardize the trust that I have with him. And this isn't for me. Like, this is, I was just here to do a thing. it wasn't supposed to go this deep. But it does. And I think also what's really good about the book is the female friendships that are being developed along the way and that are already established. And how really women in STEM, even like, we have so much internalized misogyny that to the point where even Elsie says a negative thing about Georgina. And she's like, no, I hate when people think that of me. And that was just my default. And we really do have to stick together. And I'm so shitty, and acknowledges it too. And everyone's like, calm down. And she's like, no, like, and they're like, I feel like you see so much character growth with everybody, all the characters that we meet, and the self-doubt that's there, and the friendships that you're like, if I am my true self, will they think less of me?
Surprising no one, I think. I read this twice, and a reread is delightful. It is delightful. Everything is there within the first 5. It fits the pattern beautifully. Everything is bookended lovely. This book is so much fun. And also, there was a moment where I had pricks of tears where I was just like, oh, no, oh, God. And
was it the first confession? Or the second confession, or neither?
It was neither. It was when George is like, I can tell her. I signed the contract.
Oh, yeah.
I lost it. Oh, my God. I was just like, oh, no. Because that crushed dream is just like so fucking raw and real.
And
so
everybody knows.
Everybody knows. You're the last one to know. Oh, it was awful and like heart-wrenching. So again, this book is great. I very much enjoyed this book. And as I was joking with you earlier, you're like, well, it's just like a straight romance. I've got Dr. Coulson and Olive, so I have Star Wars a little bit. I have Adam Driver. My fantasy is alive and well. All right? So it ticks all the boxes.
Along. We know where they are in their relationship. Like,
exactly.
But I also think it's like, we are very well versed with the world of academia, the professional world of academia. We are very much aware of the internal politics and how small the community is. And I think this is another great example. I mean, granted, a lot of this comes from the background that Hazelwood brings to her writing, is that they went to school in California. Now we're over in Boston, and now we're at Harvard, MIT, and UMass. Like, Boston hones all of that, but there's so many research capabilities in between that everyone's like, of course everybody knows each other. Of course somebody has a story with the person that you had just met. And it's just so real and fun, and hearing how much you love it. I'm always nervous because it's romance. It's not romance within any fantasy context. It's literally just a rom-com made for every day. There's no need to suspend belief here.
I don't know. I think like this is it's scientific. Yeah. If you are not interested at all, then this could be a slog. I am trying to imagine a situation where you wouldn't like this book. If you don't like science, then don't read this, right? Like, there's a lot of it here. If you don't like the world of academia, don't read this. But Jess, we're talking a lot about the book, but who are these people?
Well, our key people are FMC is Elsie. She's a theoretical physicist, so she's a theorist. And she focuses on theories. And I feel like, and she kind of cops out to it too. It's like, you have all these ideas, you have all of these research components, but are they actually applicable? Where you have the counter to that, experimental physicists, and also known as like experimentalists. That's our MMC, who is Jack Smith. And he has a brother, Greg Smith. So Jack Smith is like our MMC. He's a experimental physicist, and professionally, both of these subgenre niches of being physicists, they kind of go head and head. You have people who are like, you have to do all this research. And then you have experimentalists who are saying like, you just got to do. You can't just sit in theories. You have to see if they're actually applicable. So there is contention between the two groups. And between that, there's also, Elsie is also an adjunct teacher. She's an adjunct between adjunct professor, 3 key major universities in Boston that she's constantly bouncing around to. And if anybody is familiar with how insurance works in the United States, unless you work full time, you're basically not covered. So she has no insurance coverage. She's, working multiple jobs to create a full-time, employment for herself and income for herself, but she's not getting any perks that come with being full-time. So she is going that way and finding opportunities to interview for full-time positions and be a full-time researcher so she doesn't have to adjunct. Like I said, we have our Greg Smith character, who is Jack Smith's little brother. And we have, I can't even remember her name, and I've read this book 3 times, the roommate. Oh, Celeste, Cece. She is Elsie's roommate. They're both in academia, and I feel like those are our key people. We have some, side characters along the way, including Adam and Olive. But Cece and Elsie find themselves in a predicament that they are in grad school, and they start being, I want to say escorts, but they're not escorts in like sex work. They're escorts in just like, pay for the day girlfriends, companions kind of thing. No sex work is involved, though sex work is like not like diminished in any way of this book. It was just like, she's like, we're in grad school. We're coming up, like we can make more in a couple hours than we can in a whole week working retail. So this seems like a good match. And so to add additional, income to what they're both taking in as adjuncts, they take on this part-time girlfriend role, and they have their, a varied set of clients. And one of those clients happens to be Greg Smith. And as we know, Greg is Jack Smith's little brother. But, this again, first couple chapters, we find out really quickly that Elsie doesn't really know Jack Smith in a professional way. She just knows him as her client's older brother, and she kind of has to save face because her client, Greg, has certain expectations for her to uphold when they're attending family events together.
The whole thing is so much fun. Okay. So can I just say I love Millicent. Grandma Millicent is just like one of my favorites. I love her. I want to point out that this book opens with a cold open, and we're like somewhere in the story, and it's just like, how did I get up here? Hey, that's me. I bet you're wondering what I did to end up here. And then we flash back 24 hours earlier. I want to point out the people pleasing part of this, as we're kind of like building the character of Elsie. Elsie kind of describes it as like carving out little pieces of herself and then presenting those pieces to the person, like tailor made for them so that they like her. Because if she doesn't do that, then people will leave, and she doesn't want to be left. And it's very emotional for her, and it bleeds into every aspect of her life, this people pleasing. Yeah, into the bedroom as well. Into a very frustrating scene for me. I was just like, oh my God. She's like, I don't know. So, oh my God. Okay.
Well, just like Jack was frustrated, and I feel like Jack would probably be my perfect in real life boyfriend, to take that patience to get to know somebody with all of the unlearning you're having to do with your own personal traumas. I think that was just like such a huge, sweet aspect of him. And I also like the nod. There's a point that Allie puts in this book, and she's like, but why do I find Jack attractive? He's blonde.
He's blonde.
He's like, he's not Kylo Ren. I love that. I feel like now that I've read probably 3 Allie Hazelwood books now, and I think you've read 2 now, I feel like Allie is in it with us as fangirls. And she's like, I want to be in on it too. I want to read a book. And I think she gets it. And it's in such a playful, natural way.
I do want to point out Allie Hazelwood, as far as I know, is Team Gale.
Oh.
So there's that.
Okay. Well, you know what? You can't describe. She wrote a whole book about Adam Driver. So, you know what?
It's balancing the scales. It's balancing the scales. No one's perfect. We understand. Gale, though. Okay. Anyway, we're here. We're in this. The things that I like about Elsie too are like the Go, when she's playing Go at the 90th party at Millicent's with Jack. She's like, why haven't I wiped the floor with this guy yet? I love that about her. I love the Twilight. I was interested in the Twilight because it happens like right away with the Twilight references. And then she's like, and I didn't see him. It was like he was in a supermassive black hole. I was like, haha, I saw what you did. I see what you did there. And then we talk about Vampire Baseball League later on. And then we're watching the movies later on. So I thought that was very fun. And I'm pointing it out because I'm on record of saying that, like, I'm not a fan of pop culture references in books, but this one I find just like very funny and very amusing. I feel like everybody can kind of just like laugh and giggle at Twilight. And like, I think everybody has had that embarrassing moment of like introducing it to a new boyfriend or like a new friend. And you're just like, we all need to get on the same page about this.
Well, I think about the annual Twilight rewatches that we do, and we are due for our Eclipse one, movie 3. I don't remember seeing the Eclipse. I remember reading the book. Barely, but I read it a couple times, I think, but I don't remember seeing the movie. So I feel like watching the movies, it's the same thing. And she's like, I like it unironically. I don't like it because it's bad. Like, I actually genuinely like it. And it is such a specific point in time, but I feel like you introduce it to new people. I mean, editor Sam will do the dad stance we're watching 2 different versions of Twilight. So I think it's just a movie that nobody wants to admit. And that's why they were like, I don't watch it with anybody. I kind of just watch it myself.
I just watch it by myself. No, it's hentai porn. It's hentai porn, Cece. It's not.
It's like when people are like doing like, what are you hiding in there? And you're like, drugs, because you don't want to admit to what you're actually doing.
Shit. So it's very fun. It's very fun. Okay. I think a nice, like, light touch on this, because this book is so much fun, and the heavier aspects of it, I think we can just like, we can touch on. So, also Elsie loves cheese, and cheese is like such a big part. I mean, do you really connect with that?
I mean, as somebody who's lactose intolerant, yes. I mean, we went to Rome. We had like, I'll never forget, because it's just like one of those girl things. We were like, let's be super bougie and like go to a Michelin star place while we're in Rome. And then by the end of the day, we were like, actually, all we want is like 2 full cheese board plates with like honey and whatever they want. And we canceled our plans. We went to like the best cheese board place we could find. It was around the corner from our place. And then we were like, this is all I wanted. And you know, when you're lactose intolerant and all you want is a cheese board. So when their dad develops lactose intolerant and Greg was giving Elsie the heads up, like, hey, by the way, he's still going to go hard on that cheese. Relatable. And I think most people who are lactose intolerant and love cheese feel the same way.
Absolutely. And it makes her, it just makes her and her relationship with Cece and the porcupine, very, very fun.
Hedgehog.
And very, very light. And then the hedgehog, my bad. And then it makes their confrontation at the end very heartfelt. I was just like, oh. So let's get there. We're at a birthday party and Jack is suspicious. What about this? What about this thing that Greg has to do? Why don't you tell me about that? You can't, can you? Why not? What the fuck? And I love that because on a reread, you know that he's just trying to figure her out because he is like basically in love with her.
Yeah.
But he fell first and he fell harder.
Oh, 100%. And then he's like, the things that he is trying to find out and get to know about her, he's like, but this version that I have of you, I see the wheels in your head turning in every situation, but you don't do that around me. And she's like, because I can't read you. But it is so fun. Jack is so great. But what, and I don't even want to say uncomfortable. I feel like since the beginning, once she beats him and go, she really drops the charade of people pleasing around him because he has frustrated her so much. So who she is around him is her truest self. So it sets it up as an enemies to lovers of sorts.
It does. Because he is, Jack Turner Smith is very well known in the physics department as being an antagonist and wrote a letter at 17 and let's get into the politics. Got Elsie's advisor, blacklisted from academia because he let this bogus article in because his standards were lax because he thought it would bolster his career. He's a corrupt man. We know this. But because of that just adds to this enemies to lovers. And then when they meet at this restaurant, Jessica Marie, I was just like, oh, because he was like, no, she's not. I think you have it wrong. I was like, ah!
Right? And she's thinking, oh my God, he's going to be thinking that I just bullshitted my way into this. And then he's like, oh, I know somebody who went to Northeastern who studied library science. Do you have a sister? And she's like, this motherfucker I'm never going to get this interview. I'm never going to get this interview.
Yeah, it's just, oh God. And okay. And then we have to also point out, Monica Salt, who wrote The Salt, is on the MIT search committee for the job that Elsie is applying to. And she meets with Elsie a little bit before this first meeting with the rest of the committee. And she gives her a heads up on the politics that's happening. She's like, hey, I want you. Jack doesn't want you. He has his own candidate named George and shit's going down and you have to nail this. Women in STEM.
Honestly, Monica is a real one for prepping her for all of this. And I think because as we come to find out that this, what did they call it? It's like a
bad faith interview.
It's a bad faith interview. And you know what sucks about this is that it's not this theoretical thing. It happens all the time in corporate America and not even corporate America. I've seen it in retail spaces where they have to legally post a position, but everybody in the company already knows well, I'm not going to go for it because we know who it's going to. So it's just, for optics, if anything. And that's what this interview was, unbeknownst to Elsie, but Monica was very well aware. She knew who the candidate was going to be and was likely going to get. But Monica believed in Elsie so much that she was like, look, there's another candidate. They kind of already have an in, but you stood out to me. And I do believe that you are a great candidate and a great front runner for this that could kind of meet her match.
Well, matching up with the cold open, this bathroom scene where Jack invites Elsie into the men's bathroom so that they can have a private chat about her lying to her brother. And it's all very tension. It's very fun. The banter is very good. And Elsie realizes that she cannot be the one to tell Jack, what is going on between her and Greg, because it's not her secret to tell. It's Greg's secret to tell. And Greg has been holding this secret for a while and he hasn't shared it with his family and Elsie can't be responsible for that, all of that. But she's also just like, hey, fuck you, Jack. Fuck you and the horse that you rode in on. And then two of the male members of the search committee come in and start to piss, and they start talking shit about Elsie. And they're like, yeah, she's real young and pretty and like green. I bet her advisor wrote all that shit, and she's just going to get pregnant. We're going to have to teach all our goddamn classes.
And you know what? And these are it's, of course, Elsie hears it and is already like going into this field. And a lot of women in STEM with so many stacks and preconceived notions, up against them. And then but then she says like, why does Jack look mad? Like she's very in tune to reading his mannerisms, but not understanding his mannerisms because he's already down bad for Elsie without even, and this is before knowing her true physicist background. And he even says, he's like, once I found out you were a physicist, I was like, fuck me. You're perfect. But he's just like, in general, a good guy and knows that these two professors on the committee just aren't it. Like they are just not credible people.
And in a nice, like, who hurt you kind of situation.
Yeah.
He tells on them and gets them like off of the committee. He's like, no, none of that. And that is brought up a little bit later. Like, oh, like, you must be fucking her and it must be good. Otherwise, why would you screw over your colleagues? Like,
it's like they screwed over themselves. I didn't do shit.
I didn't do shit. Okay, so let's move on with this. Elsie's family is horrible. I think we can just like leave it at that. They're absolutely awful, and they need her to solve every problem between her twin brothers, who are also, I assume, pieces of shit.
And they're older than her. And I think this would I think this is just like the parentification of the daughter. I don't even want to say the eldest daughter in the family, because one, she's the eldest because she's the only, but two, she is the only daughter. So she has two older brothers who she says she's like 28, I think, 26 or 28. So the fact that so 27. So the fact that it's a struggle, and it happens again very often. My aunt does it to me, for my cousins too. And you're just like, it makes not wanting kids so easy when you are the parentified child your entire life.
The teaching demo is next. And I think it's important to say that Elsie nails a teaching demo. She hates teaching. I mean, real. That is being so good at it and hating it. I understand that. She wins over the class because it's a class full of experimentalists, and she like plays to their ego. Like, I need you to hear my theory so that we can work together and teamwork, blah, 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 blah. Fucking nails it. And then Jack takes her on a tour and shows her like all of the offices, and Elsie is envisioning like, this will be my office. And she says it out loud. And Jack is like, you are not going to get this job. This is not going to be your office. Like Elsie, you need to really like taper your expectations here. Like, it's not going to happen. And Elsie is like, fuck you, dude. Like, I'm going to do really good and I'm going to make it happen. And Jack is like, you are not hearing me.
Yeah.
And she still, he can't. He can't. That's all he can say. Like, but in fairness, explain it.
If you were Elsie in that moment, wouldn't you be like, fuck you?
Because I'm a very competitive person.
Yeah, exactly. So you would be like, I'm going to prove you, and especially without having all of the information, it would be like, I'm going to, and I'm going to and all of the little internal thoughts that she's having. She's like, I'm going to just spread rumors about him on campus. I'm going to make it miserable. I'm going to rue the day I was born, kind of thing, that I got hired here. And it's hard not to, because especially with everything that we are learning about Elsie, she's trying to be like, here's this person, another person who doesn't believe in me. Because at this point, she's also thinking her advisor is the only one who has her best interest, and her roommate. Every time she tries to share accomplishments with her family, it's completely disregarded. And so everything is minimized. So why do you keep sharing these things with people who don't necessarily care? But she cares. And this is the one thing that she cares about, because it's not just income. It's so much more. It's about, again, this is just the state of, I know we have some international listeners. the environment that we live in the United States. We don't get insurance. And even if you have a full-time job, some full-time jobs don't offer you insurance immediately upon hiring. So, and we know at this point that, Elsie she's a type 1 diabetic. So she has to have insulin pumping on her at all times. And her monitor isn't even accurate because it spazzes out because it's not a newer version, and she can't get a newer version because why? We don't have insurance. So it's a secular thing of you need to prove if anybody, yourself, because that's all you can rely on.
And there is a very nice moment with Jack with very nasty soda, where Elsie is like overcome. She faints on the desk, and Jack is like, "You're diabetic? Like, does Greg know you're diabetic? Like, what is going on?" Like, and they have this conversation of like, analyzing people and presenting like your best self and what they want so that they like you. And Jack sees that as lying, like straight up. He's just like, that is not who you are. So you're lying. You are constantly lying. But he's also like deeply in love with her. And everything he learns about her is just like another like layer of like how much he loves her. But it is, just to circle back to this, if he looked me in the face and said, "You're not going to get this job," I would just like, I would just be so mad and like so like disappointed and like, why don't you believe in me? Why can't I do this? Like, you clearly have some like vested interest in this. So what, like, what, you know what I mean? Like,
would you think that would be your enemies to lovers origin story? No, I feel like we've talked about like how some people are like, "Oh my gosh, I fell in love with my high school bully." And we're like, what? I mean, again, to each their own. But if somebody was telling me that you could never do, and I've had somebody, who told me, "You can't do it. It's too hard. Nobody can do it." Well, I spent an entire semester doing it and it was like one of those things that I was like, now I have to. Now I have to. And I did. And I did it before that person. It was like, "I've been trying for so long." I was like, "Well, you didn't try hard enough then."
I don't know. Especially now, because like Elsie has to give this like research talk, right? And she nails it. Her mom tries to like fuck her up on that. But she nails it. Monica says like, "You've got this, like you've got this in the bag," right? Like, she's so good though. But I want to talk about the party, because this last party at Monica's house, this is where I gasped the gasp. Oh my God.
Where her son is there?
Yes. So like everything is over, right? Like Elsie's given her all to this like 3-day interview process. She's like gone. She's like met with everybody, like all of this stuff. She's really nailed it. Everybody really, really likes her and like appreciates like what she's done and like sees the applications of her research and like how it can be like very useful, right? So this party is like the last thing to like kind of relax you. And Monica's like, "Have you met Monica Salt?" The one who like really is her champion here is like, "Have you met my son?" And Elsie's like, he looks really familiar. And Monica introduces them and is like, "Elsie, she's a physicist. She's a candidate for this job." And he's like, "No, she's not. She's like a hooker."
Fucking crazy. How fucking crazy was that? And you're like, and this is this like, you're like, what? And also, go figure, because I like her boss at the agency, at the like get a girlfriend agency, where she's like, "Why are men?" That's all you've been saying to me all the week. We were like, "Why are men?" And because again, he had to hire a girlfriend for optics, and then was still like, "I'll give you an extra $70 if you fuck me." And she's like, No, that's not what any of this is. No. And then he, of course, because men are like, "Well, you weren't even that pretty anyway." And like, you had to pay somebody to fuck you. And you want to be mad at me?
Mortifying. Absolutely mortifying. oh my God, right? Like, I just can't. I just can't. It's just awful.
But Jack overhears.
Well, yeah, Jack overhears and he threatens the shit out of this kid. And then he follows up later with more threats. And he's like, nah, he's not going to say shit. He's not going to say shit. Jess, take us through our tooth emergency.
So all of this while, we know of Greg, and Greg is Jack's little brother. And all of these things are popping up with Elsie. And Jack's like, I don't believe you. I don't trust you. You are withholding information, so that's just as bad as lying in my eyes. Because if you're in this loving long-term relationship with my brother, why doesn't he know you have diabetes? Why don't you know about his work situation? All of this time, she's like, call him. I can't explain it. He can. I am not the one you should be asking these questions to. But they can't get a hold of Greg because he is on a 4-day silent meditation work retreat. And she's like trying to blow up his phone, trying to give him a heads up to be like, hey, when you get out of this retreat, we need to talk. And your brother is going to be coming around with a ton of questions. And he gets out of the retreat early because he has an abscessed tooth. And gets rushed to the hospital, and the nurses turn on the phone and see all of Elsie's texts blowing up and goes, hey, you must be a contact. We can't get a hold of anybody. Can you please come? So she's like, yeah. And she's like, don't you have an address on file? And again, Jack overhears this and he's like, kind of something you would think a girlfriend should know where her boyfriend lives, but here we are. And she's like, fuck, they called you too. And they were like, we just started calling people. This is an emergency. He's going to be loopy. I also didn't know that ERs do dental procedures, but okay. And they're like, well, get him home. And so Elsie sits in the back seat like I'm in trouble and I don't want to engage with this interaction with Jack at all. And they bring Greg home. He's high on all these painkillers, and he's just, saying things out of his mouth. Please come home with me, Elsie. Please, I'll pay the normal rate. And of course, Jack is hearing this, and she's like, this after the Austin, like, fuck my life. And then of course, Greg keeps continuing. Oh, my brother has a thing for you. He likes you. And Jack's like, fuck, nobody's supposed to know anything. And so we get to the situation of they're trying to calm Greg down. They need to put him down. He needs to go to sleep, rest off the painkillers. And we get a love confession from Jack. And it's like one of those, it's kind of like if you read ACOFAE, it is the equivalent, it is the rom-com equivalent of chapter 54. I've always loved you. I've always seen you from, and I don't know how to explain it because then I'm a shitty brother because I was jealous of my brother because he's falling for someone who I think is perfect for me.
Yeah, I feel so guilty. Like, maybe they're not as solid as I think they are. If she doesn't know all these things about Greg, and like that's a terrible thing to think. Like, but then I'm finding out all these things, and like I'm kind of relieved because I want her, and then she passes out of my arms twice.
And it's also, and Ellie does another great job about like just ace representation too, about explaining just where his brother is in his sexual orientation. And it's this mask. And then Jack is taking it upon himself on top of this confession, saying like, he told me and I disregarded it. I just like pivoted the conversation, and here I was putting so much on you, talk about the miscommunication trope. And we're not even halfway through the book when these conversations are happening. So where he's like, he goes, and it was all because of me. And she was ready to get this like lashing about like, oh my gosh, you didn't tell me, you've been lying. And he internalized it. He was like, it was really all my fault because if I had been more open about it, we wouldn't be here where we are now.
And nothing really comes of this love confession. Elsie kind of like freezes a little bit, and then Greg comes in naked and kind of like breaks up the moment for them. And then we kind of like flash forward, and we're anxiously waiting for job results. And it's Saturday night. We go to the movies to see 2001: A Space Odyssey. We run into Jack and George, and this is the moment where I broke. And George is like, "Hi, my name's George. You're Elsie, the librarian. I work at MIT with Jack." "Oh, I can tell her. I signed the contract. It's all official now." Poof, there goes the bubble. There goes the dreams, the hopes, everything. Poof, it's gone. And Elsie runs away. And honestly, yeah.
The crash out is so fair because, again, she's seeing the movie with her roommate. She's with Cece. They're like, okay, well, you can't wait around all day for the results. You need to, let's distract you with the favorite movie you've told me you liked. Let's go see Space Odyssey. And then they're like, oh my gosh, we know you. And all George knows about Elsie is, oh, Jack can't stop talking about you. You're the person who studies library sciences who is dating his brother. So you're not in all of this. Let me tell you my information. But everybody there, because Georgina and Jack got out of the same movie, they all know. All the parties except Georgina knows. And the only reason that Elsie knows that it's Georgina is because of her mentor, her female mentor who was bringing her on to Harvard or the MIT board, was saying, like, let the name slip. That's how we found out, oh, this is who my competition is.
And Elsie runs away, as she should. Jack comes after her, as he should. And this is the scene, Jess, that you referenced where Elsie kind of throws George under the bus. She's like, oh, and she's like, why did I do that? Why did I do that? Why did I resort to that? Just like all the men resort to that when they do it. Like, oh, that's awful. But like, oh, I'm so frustrated. And this is where Jack explains that, like, okay, first of all, like, you have to stay here. You're going to stay here tonight. You are absolutely freezing. I'm going to tell you what a bad faith interview is. I'm going to explain what happened, and I'm going to explain the process to you so you know. And then you are going to fall asleep here. That's what you're going to do in my bedroom. That's what we're going to do. And I like this. I like that he stays downstairs. I like that he like closes the door and like leaves her there. I like all of that, especially because we know how he feels about her. And he's still just like,
and knows how she is as a person. Mm-hmm. She's learning and unlearning certain characteristics that she needs to grow from. And there's just a ton of respect and boundaries and patience that he is allowing for her and himself, which, again, I feel like it's rare. In 2025, you see that happen often.
Mm-hmm. And then we wake up at 3:46 a.m. and we have the quote of the book. Elsie, this is not your character arc. This is more like a character bump. As she goes and cuddles on the couch, and they talk about, in my fantasies, you let me take care of you because in my fantasies, nobody else ever has.
That's not a fantasy, Jack. It's actually fucking reality.
It's actual truth. And part of Elsie's crash out was like, I'll never have healthcare. And like, for real, girl, for real. Men have no curtains. Of course they don't. Sure.
She's like, you would think, but she's like, more or less he has his shit together.
More or less, but he doesn't have any damn curtains. We have to go to Millicent's house. We're going to have morning ritual there with Millicent. I just love her.
And Millicent clocks them from her birthday and then clocks them again here. She's like, this is Greg's girlfriend. What? But y'all are here. What's this about?
Yep. I love it. We get a little bit of lore here too. Like, oh, Jack's mom was a theoretical physicist. Like, he his stepmom once yelled at him and said, "Don't you call me mom." And then I had him take Turner as his last name, and that's why he uses real names. It's like a boundary to keep everybody separate. That article about his mother. What? And then Jack asks her out, and Elsie's like, "You can take me out." And they have a lot of banter, and it is very, very sweet. I think the villain is Dr. L. Yeah.
Her mentor, right?
Her mentor. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because even though I like that question, like when he was like, "Hey, look, I know you're worried about insurance. Here's an opportunity. I have refund. I have funds. I have research material. Come work here for full time." And she's like, "I can't." And he was like, "Cool. So now that there's no professional boundaries, I don't have to worry about crossing. Come work with me." But I feel like we all kind of, as the reader, when you're getting context clues from other people in Jack's circle, and she's saying, "Thank you for the opportunities," because she's being offered different opportunities. She's like, "But I have to she's seeking external approval, right?" And I know that that's also, that comes with people pleasing and trying to unlearn these things. But at the same time, we're not at that point yet with Elsie's character development. So when she's going to her advisor to seek this approval, the advisor's very dismissive. "Oh, there's no help. There's no opportunities out there for you. Oh, I don't know if that's a good thing." And every time she runs by different people, "Well, I need to speak with my advisor and my mentor," they're very uncertain because they're like, he's never really had his mentee's best interests at heart. And you hear it from Olive at one point, and that's based on her personal experience. Go back and read. You could go back and read The Love Hypothesis to find out more about that, and the details involved there. So Olive's saying like, you might want to kind of be aware. Unfortunately, this seems to be a reoccurring event. And Georgina does it too. Like, you should also look out for your best interest. And all Elsie keeps doing is, "Well, he was there when nobody else was."
Yeah, like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. He gave me the chance when no one else did.
Yeah. So like there is a more or less an obligation that Elsie feels to her mentor. Very much like she feels an obligation towards her family, not because she wants to, but because she was like, "Well, I was sick growing up and they took care of me." And Jack has to be like, "Well, they were your parents. That was their job," And it's a lot of things that many millennials are trying to unlearn, different family dynamics. So, again, a lot of themes in this book, but this professor, he's the villain through the decades because he was the villain in Jack's mom's story too.
Yep. He is the villain throughout this whole thing. Why are men? Why are men? And here's the villain here.
Episode. Why are men?
Worth noting that Cece is fake dating Kirk, who is a millionaire of Torin. That is just an aside.
Like, you know what? I thought that part was so funny because she just kept seeing the same person. And Elsie was like, "I feel like you don't want to admit that you like your client because you had a 1-date rule and now you keep seeing him and now you're going to work for him." Cece goes, "I knew you were supposed to be my sugar daddy. And I was just going to live off of you, but like we could change the dynamic. I know you didn't get the job. I could be your sugar mommy and then I can take care of you." And honestly, so real. I love friends that are like, we'll do it for each other.
It is so much fun. Not as much fun as learning that Olive has her wedding to Adam already planned out and they're going to get married by a park ranger. I love this. I love this little date, this little like party with all these people. So fun. And I love that Adam and Olive have such like a prominent kind of like feature during this little party. They're so sweet. I just adore them.
And how their story is getting lined out too of like, these are the things that we would like negotiate, because these are also the conversations that you feel like couples have in general when you are moving forward. Like, we're going to have to think of our contracts and the agreements that are made and package deals and what coincides with that. And again, I didn't know you could have spousal contracts. That was even something that would be up for discussion. But again, world of academia, and they are both so, prevalent in their fields that you're like, why wouldn't we take both of them?
Mm-hmm. And Olive also throws out that mentors don't always help us. A lot of times they have their own agenda. Just another one kind of like, hello. But we go out to dinner. Elsie and Jack go out to dinner after this. I want cheese. We go back to the restaurant where they first met, and then we have Jack. We won't have sex, Smith Turner. Okay. Okay.
Well, in fairness, there are other things you can do, and they do.
But first we have to have lunch with Greg, and it is very sweet love. We have to have lunch with George, and this is where George offers the postdoc, right? 3-year position. You'll immediately be ready to apply to positions after, as soon as other people retire. But again, I'm sorry, I need to discuss with my mentor. And George is like, all right, 3 weeks, and then I'm taking that table, I'm taking it off the table. No.
But, and also there was the line that George says, even if we don't move forward with this, I want you to know that I still want to be your friend. I still want to be friends with you. And that was also something that kind of rubbed Elsie the wrong way. It more or less like, how is she already like accepting defeat? I didn't talk to my mentor. Like, she was questioning it. She was like, it's like she already knows that I'm going to say no. What does she know that I don't?
A lot. Elsie doesn't know how to have an orgasm. We will learn that next, because that's what Jack asked her. How do I do this for you? And I don't know is the answer. And you know what? Who hasn't had sexy time during a Twilight movie marathon? You know what? It's just one of those things. It is universal. No one's had an original experience, but that's what happens here. We're taking off my dress. I want to have sex. We're not having sex, Jack Turner. And, close stay on for him.
Again, a lot of things you can do with your clothes on.
A lot of things.
Good for them.
Lot of things. Very fun. Very fun. Jack also in the morning, because they have, very sexy times in the morning. You know where we're going here. Come on, Elsie. You know where we're going here. It can be slow, but you can meet me there, but we're on the same path. And Elsie kind of freaks out a little bit about that. She's like, do I though? I mean, because she is thinking, and she feels like she does not know him very well. And she feels like he knows her very well, because he's able to like slice through all of her bullshit and get to the core of her. But she can't do that for him. And it's very frustrating.
And she says this time and time again that he's the only one she can't read. But it's to her benefit, too, for her character development, as we know, because she is constantly molding herself to get everybody she comes in contact with to like her. And she doesn't have that chance with him because she can't read him. So she's just kind of, all her guards are up and simultaneously up and down when she's around Jack.
Mm-hmm. They have a nice, what do they call it? Sexcation over this weekend. They just bang all over. Very fun. My quote, or my thing, chapter 22, it's a Sunday. It's been 2 weeks since the first time that she had hot chocolate since her job interview. They had sex, and she falls asleep, and then she wakes up, and they have sex again. There's no peeing in between there. There's no hygiene. There's no cleaning.
These are the things where I will suspend
fantasy. We
belief.
have to suspend
belief. I have to assume there is peeing after sex.
Not on page.
Not on page. But remember when like 5 years ago when we first started the podcast, and we wouldn't talk about, some of the books we were reading, they wouldn't distinctly say on paper whether the two people were using birth control. And you were like, I have issues. And I told you, I just assumed everybody is using birth control. So in my head, it was implied. And then that was, I'm not saying like we spearheaded the conversation. It was an overall conversation that was happening on socials at the time, because in the following subsequential books that we've read over the years, you see on page that birth control is discussed. And here birth control is discussed. She's like, I've been tested. I'm on the pill, yeah. But now it's like, okay, we got that covered. Now you're like peeing, UTIs, all this stuff. Let's do it. You should do this. I'm like, to me, it was implied, but that's because I do. So.
My note says, didn't pee, sex again. Ew, 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 swirling. Ew, it's described. So, take that as you will. But she's happy. Elsie's in a happy place with her UTI. We're assuming.
That girl does not have insurance. She must have peed. She talked about she went to Planned Parenthood for her birth control, yeah. So maybe she didn't.
It's really something. It really just stuck with me. We have a Twilight sex marathon. Jack watches her change her pod for her diabetes in a very intimate way, because she's never had anybody do that before. They talk about his mom for a bit, no memories, the name change, finding the diaries. My mom never went back after she got pregnant. She worked on semiconductors. She was Swedish, part of a research group. We learn all of this. And then chapter 23, we're back in it. Dr. L is out of town. So we go to a party with George and we get Andrea. And Andrea is there. Slumming it now, Jack?
Yeah, so we quickly learn that Andrea is another experimental physicist. And at some point, with our context clues, Andrea and Jack were kind of like fucking on and off. And he's always said, and we know through this, oh my gosh, we're so happy, through different friend dynamics, through different parties and shenanigans. Oh my gosh, Jack has a girlfriend. He talks about you all the time. It's so nice to see him settle down. But prior to that, it was just like, I've had hookups. Everybody knows it's just straight hookup. I'm not looking for anything more. And Andrea is very much butthurt about how come it's her, and it has an elitist ideology when it comes to experimental physicists and theoretical physicists. So she's confronting him about it. And he was like, you need to fuck all the way off and need to go sober up and get away from me before I say some things that are going to basically destroy you and emotionally terrorize you.
Yep.
And we love that. We love Jack.
Yeah, we love that. You know what I don't like? I don't like a third act breakup. And we kind of have that here. And even though Jack says, I was just giving you the space that you asked for, it still serves the same purpose.
It felt third act breakup-y to you. Okay.
It did. It serves the same purpose, because they're not talking. She's angry. He's plotting in the background about how he's going to get her back and how he can prove himself. Right. But she's all of these feelings and not answering his phone calls, and he's calling
and calling him back, because the first couple times she's like, ugh, this fucking timing. I'm talking to one of my students. I'm dealing with this other thing. The third time I was just not feeling like answering. But what I will respect on this one is that she made her career choices for herself without consulting him. So it became, because, she's like, I need to figure out, I need to tell off my mentor saying, fuck you. You never had my best interest at heart. I need to report him to the, I think this was that show of character development. And then after she did those check boxes, she's like, okay, now I'm going to talk to him. Now I'm in a place. But at that time that she's like, I'm going to talk to him, Cece's like, oh, you read the thing that he wrote? And she's like, what are you talking about? I haven't talked to him yet. Yeah, I was like actually going to talk to him today. So like the timing, you're like, you didn't have to do all that. I was going to talk to you, but he did.
But you did, and she didn't. It's just like it's one of those. So what happens? Okay. So they have this big confrontation. Jack goes home and fixes the credenza in Elsie's place, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is disgusting. Move in with me. This is gross. Like, come on." And she's like, "You know what? We have to have a serious talk. I can't handle this anymore." And it boils over, right? This is that thing in the back of her head, and it boils over. And they talk about like, your article screwed up everything, and your intentions, good or not, had massive repercussions, and you never talked about it. And you let everyone use you as a figurehead for this ongoing debate between the sciences. And it has impacted me greatly, and you haven't done anything about it. And I'm in this situation with my mentor because of you. So really, all of this is your fault. And then he's like, except your advisor is the one who did all of this to my mother. And I wrote the article not as an attack on your specific brand of science. I wrote it to discredit one single person, and I did my job, and that's all I ever wanted to do. And anything else that happened is out of my hands, and I have no responsibility for how other people perceive the thing that I did that I never talk about. I never talk about it because it's not important. And Elsie's like, it is fucking important though, and you don't see it.
Changed everybody. I mean, you could see the dynamic with Andrea and the elitist ideology of the experimental physicists over the theorists, and same thing with the classes when she's doing the TA. And it's that thing that he initially wrote at 17 had the longevity impact. Laura, I know you love a timeline. We're 15 years later. So he was 17, 15 years later, he's in his 30s. And it was like, oh, it did have that impact.
Yeah. And so everybody's like upset. Everybody is like learning all of this like truth, right? Jack kind of digs in a little bit more, and he calls her out on like how she is a people pleaser and like all of this stuff. And essentially it's like, you know what, Jack, I want you to leave. I'm very angry, and you have never apologized for anything that you've done. And I just can't do this right now, essentially. And he leaves. And he calls 2 days later, and then he calls again. And then we have our meeting with Dr. L. And Dr. L is a little sexist asshole, and he says, she stole your job. That's embarrassing. You cannot work for her. You silly, stubborn girl. I can talk to you however I choose. Let's go with all these other offers that I never told you about because they were not good enough for you. Asshole.
Yeah, you're withhold. There's the control aspect. I mean, talk about narcissist and his ego. She's like, you told me that there weren't any offers. He's like, well, I guess there were offers, but like none of the ones that I deemed worthy. And she's like, that's not your job as a mentor. You don't you withheld all this stuff that people were asking for me. And on top of that, she goes, you knew where I was financially. You knew where I was with my insurance. You knew where I was along those lines to help get me out of it. And you didn't help at all. You did not advise.
Yeah. And he says, like, you just do as I say. Do as I say. You owe your career to me. You owe everything to me. Don't talk to me about Greta. Greta doesn't matter. She was also a silly, stubborn girl. And that's when Elsie is just like, all right, you know what? Fuck you. I'm done. And then that guy comes in and calls her Elsie. And then she's like, Dr. L, you should really call me Elsie because he's been calling her the wrong name this whole time. And she's like, bang, bang.
And then reports into the school.
Yep. As she should. Formal complaint. As she should. Then she accepts the job with George. As she should. amazing. And then she starts doing things for herself. For example, Elsie starts ignoring her mom. She starts declining these extracurricular things at work because she's burnt out. She starts declining a bad movie night with Cece. And yeah, maybe she's a little bit depressed. But then just take us through this confrontation between Cece and Elsie about movies.
Well, I think Elsie just felt like she was on a roll, and there was this part of herself that she was hiding to what she considered one of her best friends. And she was like, look, this is so random, but I have a confession. And Cece's like, why are you making this such a big deal? But for Elsie, it was a big deal. And she's like, all those things that I told you I like, I actually don't. And Cece's like, what are you talking about? She's like, you love those. She's like, I really don't. I've just been telling you. And honestly, anything positive that I've said about it, it's because I did some research and I just pulled some key lines from like reviews and like op-eds about the stuff that you like. She's like, why weren't you honest with me? And I think it was at that point that Cece really started having things click for her to be like, did you not think that I would like you and be friends with you if you weren't this like version of you? And it was just, again, I love the female friendship. I love the ownership that you can have. You could keep your, female friendships and have new female friends, and just through different experiences. And she was like, no. So like, what do you want? Let's do this. Let's not be at this point. Let's be honest with each other. Because again, this was like the first time that Elsie was really showing Cece like a version of herself and giving her truth of who she was. And I think I do think it was a special moment for them, because it was just, Elsie gave parts to Cece that were honest, but it was not all the time.
Well, Cece has to drop the banger news. Did you see the article that Jack wrote today? I mean, I guess it's an op-ed. I mean, it's in the annals, the theoretical physics, right? So good. So good. We love when a man follows directions, right? Because she said, you haven't apologized. And he said, bet. Bet. All right, so let's go. When I was 17, I wanted revenge. I aimed to destroy Dr. L. I became an example and I never said anything. I am ashamed about that. Theoretical physics is fucking banging. And here are some links to some really good articles.
And the links included her work too. Mm-hmm. So like now we're like putting her on a professional pedestal too, which I love.
Mm-hmm. And in a very rational response, Elsie goes, oh my God. And she runs. This is very rom-com. She runs to campus, to Jack's office, but he's not there. And Michi's like, I followed you on Twitter. She's not there. And then he comes out of the faculty room and he's like, Elsie.
In front of all their colleagues. That part, I would have been mortified.
Yep.
I would have been like, can we just
staring.
like not? Yeah, that would have definitely been like, oh, I can catch up with you when you're done.
Later.
Because these people are about to be her coworkers too.
Yep. And Monica's like, y'all talk? Jack's like, yeah, we talk. And Elsie's like, not recently. And Jack's like, I was giving you the space that you asked for. And everyone's like, okay. We're going to go.
Wild. Imagine having that whole thing in front of your coworkers.
No, I couldn't. But we have love declarations. This is the end before the epilogue. Jack, I hate that you hated Twilight. You need curtains. I accepted George's offer. Fuck off, Mom. I don't want to talk to you right now. Very fun stuff. Jack, marry me tomorrow. I am here. I know where we're going. I want you. I am sorry. Elsie, I'm there too. I just need a little bit more time to find my footing. Good stuff. Epilogue 8 months later. We have family nights at the Smith house. We have therapy where we articulate our insecurities, right? Maybe there won't be another shoe that drops. Maybe we can just exist in happiness. Maybe we deserve it. Bold of her to make him read the Twilight Omegaverse fanfic.
Bold.
But I love it. I love it. Good for her. Elsie's paper gets accepted with George, George and Elsie get accepted into nature physics. Hooray. Hooray. Her mother, Elsie's mom's trying to do a better job being a mother. Cece is moving in with Kirk. They will live 5 minutes away. Elsie and Cece make a cherry jello hydron collider and surprise Jack on his birthday. The card says that I'm right here with you. And that is the end of the book. I'm right here with you, meaning they will be engaged soon. And I want that cameo coming whenever that is. How fun. How fun. And then there's a really lovely author's note where the author is just like, yo, this is like really politic heavy and academia heavy and my bad, but I wanted to write it. So,
but also
that.
Yeah. But also it's like, it's based off of, she says loosely based, but she says it's based off of a real case that happened in the 60s. But
yeah,
like the specific case, the specific case that they're referencing in here, but also not necessarily like the internal politics, because that continues to happen in academia and everywhere.
Jessica Marie, as always, you have excellent taste, and this is an absolute banger. I enjoyed every second of this. I enjoyed the reread even more. I would recommend this. I love this. I did recommend this, and I am continuing to be in awe of your selections because they blow me out of the water every single time.
Well, I don't know how I'm going to raise the bar next year because the one I'm thinking of is not going to hit that. But I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for humoring me and allowing me to just like read a romance. This has been so fun. And to see you cheese about like an Adam cameo. Like, did you know it was coming? I can't remember. Or were you just like hoping?
In the opening, she says, Allie says, for everybody that's been there since the AO3 days, the Adam Olive cameo is for you. And I was like,
oh, you're like,
I haven't been there, but it was like, I haven't been there, but I know it's coming. So it was wonderful. It was from start to finish, absolutely excellent.
Well, thank you for humoring me. And thanks, y'all, for joining us. You can find us at ACOFAE Podcast on Instagram. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. Thanks so much for joining, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.